Welcome to the Real Estate Mailbag. I'm here with my co-host, Steve Morris and Brandon Miller, and we are excited to get this pod started.
All right, so we are Wagon Wheel Title. We're a real estate title and escrow company. We have 7 attorneys on staff, and our pledge is that we make our real estate clients look like the stars that they are in their transactions, and we provide our clients with a first-class experience. On this podcast, we interview the best of the best in the real estate industry and bring real estate tips, tricks, and stories to anyone interested in real estate. If you have questions, we want to hear them going forward. You can submit questions to mailbag@wagonwheeltitle.com. Good
job. And we really want your questions and ideas, because actually this panel came from one of you guys, and so it's really helpful to us to know what you want to hear.
The unifying fact among our panelists today is that they are each a member of a powerhouse real estate team. We're going to explore the team dynamics among agents throughout the show today. First, let's introduce our guests, do a quick icebreaker question, and get a little update on the market.
All right, so first, I would like to introduce Jennifer Weinberg. Jennifer, you're going to see me reading things off this sheet. That is just to keep me on track so I don't start telling like actual stories, because we've known Jennifer for a long time. So Jennifer, it's so loud already. Catherine, am I loud? Thank you, buddy. All right, so Jennifer came to real estate after 15 years in hotel management. She has been kind of real estate adjacent as long as I've known her, because she's married to Nathan Weinberg, who many of you may know. She started, so Jennifer just has this organizational and like connector thing that you just like can't hide. And so she used that in 2016, started a short-term rental management company, and then got her real estate license in 2017. She still has her foot in the hotel world with Lily Hall Pensacola. If you have not checked it out, please do. She's now part of the Living True Home Group at MW Real Estate with Chris Billingsley and Lila McCann, who is right there. Let's see. She lives in Inglewood and is really involved in the community with the Margaret Maddox Family YMCA, CASA, and the East Nashville Hope Exchange. And one thing that is important about Jennifer, so if you have ever seen like her holiday place settings on her table, they are so noteworthy. They will just want to they'll make you want to just use like paper plates at home. So check that out.
They will make you feel like a complete failure, but in all seriousness, at like one of the lowest points in my life, Jennifer and Nathan had me over for Thanksgiving, and I'm forever grateful. So thank you.
All right, our second panelist today is Amy Gill. Amy comes to real estate from a fairly unique background, namely as a classical organist. Early in her career, she performed and worked in symphony management, but is now best known as an architectural design enthusiast and real estate sales guru. Her design work at Gill Design Co. has been featured in national design publications and recognized by the Nashville Historic Commission. Still active in Nashville's independent music scene, Amy resides in the Lackland Springs neighborhood of East Nashville. She is the co-founder of Domus Development Group and Domus Nashville with Parks Real Estate, which we will learn more about today. Our third panelist is Amy's teammate, co-founder of Domus, which is Pete Jones. In addition to being a top producing realtor and developer, many also know Pete from his community involvement and leadership, including as past chair of Next Stop, which is affiliated with the Martha O'Brien Center. Pete is an avid hiker and resides in his beloved 12 South neighborhood, where he can often be seen walking, strolling with his wife and kiddos.
Pete, did you want me to say anything about the fittest dad in Nashville, or did you want to just not? We'll talk about it later. All right, cool.
Pete has a fitness competition coming up. If you can get the date and location out of him, let me know. Okay, and then last but not least, we have Erin Krueger. Erin is a friend of mine and came to the world of real estate through, she also has, I should say, her MBA, so she's kind of that, she's got the double whammy there. She knows the business side and she knows the real estate side. She is the head of the Erin Krueger Team at Compass, and she is a true force. I don't know if you guys have met Erin before, but if you haven't, you'll see what I mean. To tout just a few stats, Erin's been named the top selling team 5 years in a row by the Greater Nashville Association of Realtors. More recently, they were ranked number 1 in Tennessee and number 3 in the nation for the most homes sold and sales volume by Real Trends, and featured in the Wall Street Journal. As a solo agent, Erin had been ranked as high as the number 15 agent in the U.S. by the Wall Street Journal. Erin will have some fascinating insights for us today on her career as a solo agent versus her role as a team leader. This is exciting. Let's get started with the icebreaker question, y'all. Okay, we're headed to the airport because we're going to skydive. So, do you stay home? That's 1, stay home. 2, watch from the ground. 3, go up in the plane and watch others possibly fly. Or 4, jump out of the plane, and why?
So, my inclination is to stay home. However, I would definitely go in the plane and then let everybody else do it. Thank you.
For me, I'm definitely diving. Yeah, if I'm not willing to do it, why should I ask someone else to do it?
I like that. What about you, Amy?
I'm thinking no. I'm thinking I would really like to see you all descend.
Safely. Erin?
I'm definitely not jumping out of a plane. So I would be on the ground, ready to handle anything that goes wrong and be able to direct and be able to get it done and get the 911 operator, knowing the location.
So definitely take Erin with you if you want some moral support. She's got you if you die. Okay.
Erin's like, I have a file of all the insurance policies right here. Yep.
All right, so this next part we're going to do is called Breaking Ground, and this is the part where we're going to bring you recent real estate news and get panelist reactions to some stories. Before we do that, Brandon has 1 minute. We will cut you off to make the market minute exciting.
Right, we're gonna try to jazz this up a little bit with some statistics. Okay, there were 3,001 home closings in the Greater Nashville area in July of 23, which marked a 13% increase from July 22. 13% decrease from July 22, as most of us in this room know. Those figures were down only slightly in terms of median pricing. Pricing was down about 1% to 2% from where we were at this point last July. Inventory is up. We've seen about a 10% improvement from this time last year. Anecdotally, we talk to a lot of realtors, a lot of mortgage companies. We are seeing that the sales narrative has changed a little bit from date the rate, marry the home to a lot of economists are now projecting that, rates are going to come down next year and that prices are likely to spike. And we are seeing that a lot of buyers are kind of getting off the fence because of that. And that's sort of becoming a consensus view. I'll cut it off there. Great job.
Oh, I like that. Good job. Good job. I think you were probably right at a minute. But it's always good to get it like a state of the market. So, it's interest rates are high. Still a great time to buy, as we all know here. Okay, so we're going to have a couple headlines, and we gave you guys the articles just in case you want to see them. But the first one is about condos, and it's an Axios article where condos remain kind of the sweet spot in the market right now in terms of they're still moving more, this article says, than other forms of real estate, citing that it comes as younger buyers look for more affordable homes and empty nesters want to downsize for maintenance-free lifestyle. So what's your guys' reaction to that? Is that kind of what you're seeing? Tell us a little bit, your thoughts.
I'll go first. So I think one thing is to educate your especially first-time home buyers on what a condo is, because sometimes the perception is it's going to be a high-rise, it's going to feel like an apartment, but there are lots of different condo products. So it could be a townhome. It's just in how it's deeded. So that's number one. But I think that right now the value of condos being so high and being a great investment as much as a single family home is really something that we need to share more in our industry, especially for first time buyers. They have an idea of, I'm going to get the picket fence, I'm going to get a little yard, and that might be true for the second one, but let's get you in the door, and the way to go is a condo.
And I think, it just shows our growth of a city, really, because years ago, I've been doing this for nearly 18 years, and the condo market has not always been as great as it has been in recent years. And it just shows that now this is a destination. This is, a lot of people are buying their second home or their third home, and this is a fabulous city, and they want to experience it. So you're getting people that want to have a vacation home, but also maybe want to start their investment and kind of be a first-time home buyer. So I agree with Jennifer. It's about knowing the fees too, especially if you're a first-time home buyer for that. But it's a good thing for Nashville.
My perspective is that in times of uncertainty, people choose certainty. So I think not only are we seeing the condo market because it's a certain entity, they know what their fees are going to be. There's not the unknown of the roof 2 weeks into closing. So I think they choose certainty. We're also seeing that as a movement towards the suburbs as well. We're seeing new home subdivisions sell as well. So I think those are synonymous. That people want certainty in times of uncertainty, as we've been in the last year and a half in real estate.
My reaction to this was that we're all getting back to the fundamentals. So location is the fundamental of real estate, and what we consider to be the most desirable location changes with times. But right now, people want to be where they want to be. And so if you want the amenitized lifestyle, you want the walkable lifestyle, you're willing to give up the yard for right now to get the condo, whether that's your first-time home buyer or your empty nester. I do want to also talk about that in relation to the next article, because I think that those are interesting to pair against each other.
Ooh, without further ado.
All right, a lead in. I like it. Okay, so the next article to get your reaction to, it is from a website called The Real Deal. It says, Warren Buffett bets big on home builders. Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway has disclosed $814 million in investments across 3 home builders this week. A shortage in existing home inventory is elevating home builders across the country, and Buffett appears to have taken notice. The stock index tracking home builders has easily outpaced the broader S&P 500 this year. While the broad index has risen 16.5% this year, the S&P Home Builders Select Industry stock index is up 36.4%. So does that fit with what you guys see? What's your reaction to that?
So my reaction was so you have your people going towards the condos, but then there's just not enough inventory. So maybe you want to live where you want to live. Maybe you want the walkable lifestyle, but you can't afford that right now because of the golden handcuffs that so many of us who bought into the urban core in the last big movement away from the suburbs and to the city. Now those people are staying. They got their house and they can't really afford to move up. So where does the next wave go? They've outgrown the condo, so they're going to have to go to the suburbs. And so you can see it's sort of a both and. The condo article is saying people want to live in the city and they're going to do what they have to do and they're going to give up a lot to get that. And also, they're the people that need a house, that they can't live in a condo anymore, and so they're going to give that up for this certainty, the new home, that I don't have to worry about the roof, and this is where we can get inventory.
I would say don't bet against Warren Buffett. So if this is where he's putting all his money right now, I think that that's a good sign for us. The home building industry came to kind of a halt in the Great Recession, and I'd say the last 10 years have not caught up. And so we're still in that period where these business cycles have really highlighted our lack of inventory over the last 10, 14 years. So if he's going all in on this, then I should change my stock portfolio.
Yeah, and it was an $800 million investment. And so from that perspective, all of the builders are, normally spec builders, first-time home buyers are going to be their buyer group and things like that. And so there's just a huge shortage on affordable homes and the lack of inventory, and that price is just going to get driven up. And so, Nashville is one of the best places to invest in, and we're going to see that squeeze even happen as things kind of change and the rates kind of taper down over time. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, but I agree, don't bet against them for sure.
One more item that I'd add, I agree with everything that's been said. Also, if you're seeing any advertisement with new construction, you're also seeing them advertise a significantly decreased interest rate. So yesterday I was looking at 3 different subdivisions, and they were all advertising between 5 and 5.67 interest rate. And so that's something, when you can scale to that model, you're able to control that interest rate because you can control the product, whereas the typical homeowner cannot purchase at that same rate. And so there's even more movement because of that change in interest rate as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I mean, I think what's been interesting is that I haven't seen a lot of pricing come down through this. And so I feel like, I don't know if you guys agree that, when interest rates drop, even, I mean, certainly sub 6, but even down to close to 6, it's just going to be, I mean, we're still seeing, multiple offers and hearing about that from you guys, but I feel like it's just going to go back to that. Do you think that's true, or what's your all's thought on that?
I mean, nobody has a crystal ball of what's going to happen here, but like I think one of you mentioned, a lot of economists are saying that with the incoming presidential election, they'll try to infuse, some maybe warmth into the economy and good cheer, and maybe bring down the interest rate. But we don't know if that's really going to happen or not. I think what Pete's talking about is that being solution-based is really, really important. What is the big elephant in the room? And that is the raising rates. I mean, we're going to tick up to 8%, possibly over. And that is a huge difference from 5% or 5.5% or 5.75. So if we can bring solutions, get partners, lending partners, the developers, the builders, all on the fence, all together, and offer something that can lock in that buyer and make them feel comfortable, I think it's the best time to buy right now, because if you can take advantage of that, if the interest rates drop and people flood the market, you've already got your asset, you're locked in, and if it even drops even lower, you can refi, and you got all that front-end equity. I think it's a great thing. So I'm trying to even tell our buyers that when they're looking at stuff that's not new construction, we're negotiating this type of stuff. We're trying to get those rates down and working with our lenders and those sellers.
It's a great value add. Do you guys have anything else you want to add to that? Good. All right, so Brandon.
So I know we're just kind of following up on that. I know there was all 4 of you, are big connoisseurs of the news and real estate news in particular. I know there was a big Wallet Hub study that just came out that ranked the best cities to buy a home in 2023, and Nashville was number 1 in the large city category. I think they had 17 different factors, but main screen is like best investment return, most stable pricing. But broader questions, where do the 4 of you go for your news, especially as you're trying to inform your team and keep them where they know what's going on in the market? There's so much news, it's hard to screen out the noise for what's really important. So what do you each think about that? Where do you go?
I mean, obviously I read Inman, but I think, you can look at the Wall Street Journal and the Nashville Business Journal, but we really need to dig down deep and talk to people like boots on the ground. Like, as agents who sell every day, we're our best source of what's going on in the market and what we're seeing. And what's going over in East Nashville might not be the same as what's going over in West Nashville. And so it's very hyperlocal in that respect. And so while the rhetoric is good to know what's going on across the country, it's really, really important to know what's going on locally. So obviously reading the local papers as well, and then talking to your fellow agents and seeing what they're seeing.
Yeah, I try to take a broad, like I subscribe to The Economist and read The New Yorker, and I try to get a sense of where we are globally, but also, like you were saying, like anecdote runs ahead of data. Like, I'm going to know so much sooner on the ground what's coming and how the market is shifting long before it makes it to the papers. But I do think it's a combination of the big global forces, because we need to know what our people are listening to, what are the headlines that they're hearing that we need to push against, and also just the local news. Like, you got to know what's happening, what development's coming, like Nashville Post and the Nashville Business Journal, and talking to other people. So it's both and.
Oh, I like the Post. That's good.
I agree with all of that, because staying micro is really important. You have to have all your local information, and so all of those sources are the ones that I follow too. On a national scale, I think it's important to know what other people might be hearing, and so, but I don't like to necessarily hear that from the television, so I subscribe to the Skim. They send an email to your email box at 5 a.m. every morning, gives you the highlight in the news yesterday, nationally and globally, and then 4 extra articles in there, so it really takes about 30 seconds to just get caught up on whatever the buzzwords of the day are going to be without hearing it and wanting to like get sick from watching it on television.
And I think too, I think the Skim may have a podcast that's like a weekly on Thursdays if you're more into that. So I also like that. Okay, so the next section is called Path to Profits, where our panelists share their tips and stories of success so that they can elevate your game in real estate. And the first one, tell us a little bit about your individual teams and give us some insight into the structure of your team.
Sure. So Amy and I have been business partners for 7 years, and we had a 50-50% partnership, and that worked really well. We essentially identified that we could only be one person in one place at one time, and we had one certain skill set. And if we could combine those 2 skill sets, we could double it. And we could also be in 2 geographical locations. So being in 12 South, I'm south of the city. Amy's in East Nashville and Laughlin Springs. And so there's also this downtown traffic loop that we can avoid at last minute showings as well. So we identified that early on. And then more recently, within the last year and a half, we brought on 3 new teammates onto our team. And we have them within very specific skill sets is what we were looking for, and very specific demographics that they could represent. And so we were intentional about us on our team that we look like the city that we represent. And so that was one of the most important factors to me and to Amy as leadership. We think we can utilize their new thirst for knowledge, energy, excitement. We can bring and scale some of our knowledge to them and let them run with it. That's how our team is formed.
I'm sort of the baby of the teams on this panel. So Chris, Lila, and I formed Living True Nashville last year. We all had been solo agents, and as even solo agents, you need to find your people and have your backups. And so we had already established that relationship. And so last year we solidified it into our own partnership. So our team is more of a partnership group. It's equitable in responsibilities and in finances. And so it's the 3 of us together. And it's been good. It's been a good experience. But what I like about that is it sounds like a little bit like it starts like Amy and Pete, and then the goal will be one day to follow Erin's steps. So I'm here just to listen to what she has to say about that. But I think it also shows that teams are all different kinds of ways. When we were exploring our partnership, we had investigated all different setups, and we didn't really find one that we ended up settling on. And so we feel like we're a little bit unique in that. So I think it's important to know out in the real estate world that teams form in a lot of different ways for different reasons.
I couldn't agree more. I think a lot of people come to me and they say, I want to start a team. How do I start a team? And I'm like, why do you want to have a team? I think it's very important to know why you want to have a team. Is it for leverage? Is it that you want to put your toes in the sand 6 months out of the year? Or do you want to work and grow people and see them flourish too? And I think that's where my bucket kind of comes in. I've been doing this 18 years, over 10 years as a team lead. And, I've been a solo agent and I've grinded, and I've been a team lead and I still grind. And so I think it's like, what do you want? But nothing fulfills me more than seeing the women that work side by side with me every single day hit their goals. And, we're in a career where there's no limit to what you want to do, and how hard you want to work. And so for me, I want to work hard for them every day. They work hard for me, and there's a really great culture, and that's what I'm growing. And a byproduct of that is our clients are happy. They're referring us, and we're passionate, excited people, and people want to be near those kind of people. Nobody wants to be near a negative Nelly. I mean, we have a saying on our team. There's no negative Nellies on this. Have your positive pants on, because real estate can get sticky. And every day I wake up I am so happy to do what I do. And I think that kind of transcends from the top all the way into my team. And we show up with a smile, we show up solution-based, and we have the results that show how we kind of, and what we bring to the table every day. In terms of the makeup of the team, you know, we've got around 11 people on the team. We've got admin, we've got about 8 licensed agents. You know, we sell a couple hundred units a year. And I am just really blessed with the fact that I have brought in, I would say, I call them junior agents, baby agents, right out of CLI or wherever they're coming. And, you know, they have been with me for years. They've learned the ropes, and now they're running communities that we've landed. And to see that growth is so important. And so for a team, I always say, what is my value add to that person? What am I going to bring? Why would they stay with the Erin Krueger team? What do I bring to the table? And that's coaching and support and the ability to be better tomorrow than you are today. And that's my commitment to them.
I really like that, because I feel like that's what all of us are really trying to do. Drop my water. Is just try to be better today than we were yesterday. So that's pretty cool.
Right, and this kind of relates to that first question, but true or false? Try to keep it simple with a little bit of why. The most profitable path for a realtor is to scale and create a team.
False.
I think if that's your motivation, you probably won't last very long as a team lead or a solo agent.
Yeah, I wrote down false. Not every realtor is a leader. Those two things are not the same.
Yeah, so you guys were all pretty quick to say false. I don't want Brandon to completely cut you out there with your why. I think it's good for people to understand why. It's like when Steve Frederick said you shouldn't start your career by just going into the luxury market and thinking that you're going to sell, 3 or 4 luxury houses a year and you're done, right? So why you say false here?
I think it goes to what Erin said. Like, you have to be of that business mindset, and you have to go into it with the right attitude. I think if you have a mentorship attitude, then that will do better for you. But if you are going in it for the me, I'm going to guess the turnover is going to be pretty high, and that's not so good for business if you're constantly trying to replace agents and that perception of how you are to work with.
If you're not there to grow your agents, then really you're just making a Ponzi scheme, right? Right?
But in fairness,
I'm going to take money off the bottom, right? They call that a pyramid.
But in fairness, don't Ponzi schemes make money?
For a
Not
little
off of a
while.
good run.
Till you go to jail.
Oh, I was saying, if your focus isn't on growing your agents and growing your team and on the people that you're serving, if the point of having the team isn't to give your clients the best service, then really you're just making a pyramid scheme.
I know. I don't know how to react to all that.
Can I just say something? Because I think so many people, whether you're a team lead or you're an individual agent, money is the motivation. And like, I know that we, we'll interview, we get contacted through Instagram. I want to be on your team. We'll interview agents. And I ask, like, why do you want to be a real estate agent? Why do you want to sell real estate? And if they lead with that, I am not interested, because I feel as though if you can set everything else right, that will come. It's like, and in all honesty, like, if I do a deal, I'm not even doing the math of what the commission is. I don't even think about that. I remember one time my transaction manager told me after the penthouse situation, I was like, oh yeah, whew, that was a pretty good day. Like that, but that's not what I do. I do it to serve. And I think if we get into that mindset, everything else follows. And so what I do on my team is when somebody comes in new, I'm going to throw them a low lead. And if they balk at that, they're gone. Because I sold trailers when I started. And now I sold the penthouse at the Four Seasons. And it's through a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and everybody's important. Every single person's investment is important. And when I sold that trailer to a vet, I had to help him get to a next place because he was disabled. And that mattered. And what we do matters.
Yeah, I love that. And that kind of leads into my next question. So this is, path to profits for like a new agent. So say I'm a new agent, I just got my license, a couple things like if I think I want to get on a team, how do I get an interview with your team? And then once I get the interview, like what qualities are you looking for in me to join your team?
So because we don't have any team members and we're all partners, I was thinking of this question, and I was actually thinking of Colleen, who happens to be in the audience today. And so she's a newer agent at MW, and she just asked. She came to me, Lila, and Chris, and she said, hey, I want to see this part of a transaction. Do you mind if I shadow you for this part? And we were like, yeah, that would be fantastic. So I think the first thing is asking. No one's going to give you a position anywhere in life. And so if you think you want to be in a team, you have to ask. So shout out Colleen. That was great. It was great to have that mentorship opportunity for us too, to see how that would be maybe further down the road when we entertain adding team members to our partnership.
Okay, so how you get on a team. First of all, read the job description. Follow the directions. Because in real estate, we have to follow directions. So when you interview for my team, it will say send in your resume and your DISC profile. I don't know if anybody's familiar with the DISC profile. It's a personality trait, and you can kind of see where they kind of fall in with different roles on a real estate team. We don't use that as the be-all to end-all, but we use it as a guide. So my director of operations will take a look at the resume and the DISC profile, weed out the resumes there, and then she will conduct the first interviews. Now, remember, if they just send in the resume and not the DISC profile, they didn't pay attention and they didn't follow directions, so they're gone. They're not going to be asked to the party, right? So Sarah will interview them, and then she will narrow it down, and she will put 3 to 5 people in front of me. I will interview them, and I do a test. Because the next thing in real estate is listening. Because the most important thing that we do as agents is listen. Listen to our clients, listen to the team lead, listen, all of these different things. And so I always say to them, which is so important, I believe in your goals. I want to know what your goals are. So tonight, send me an email. Let me know what your goals are. Steve, did you notice that I said tonight? So Steve, if you send it tomorrow morning.
Fired.
Well, you're not even hired.
Not even fired.
You're not hired to begin with. But you're definitely not invited to go then meet the team at the next thing. So as lovely as you were, you don't go to the next round. So for those that follow direction and actually listened, and I don't repeat it, I say it, because I feel that's so important. I can't teach you as an agent to listen. I can teach you real estate, but I can't teach you to listen. So those are kind of like 2 big things for me right off the bat. But in terms of what we look for, coachability, so important. I want somebody, it doesn't matter if you've been in software sales for 20 years and you just got your real estate license, or you've been doing this for 15 years and you have a great SOI and it's gonna be adding to my business. I wanna know that you are open to learning. Listen, I've sold a lot of homes. I don't know everything, and I don't pretend to know everything. I know enough to be dangerous, but I've got some really good people I can call to get the answer. And I think that if you are coachable, and then you take that coachability and you put it with culture, and they meet with all the ladies on the team, and it has to be a resounding yes. And the reason is because I'm one person. And I used to, when the team was small, I could pour into them through osmosis. They could listen to me negotiate, but it's hard. I'm in a million places, a million appointments. So they each have to pair with my team members. And so I never want that team member to say to me, you should have never hired her. I said, oh, sister, we all hired her. So it's got to be a buy-in. And so when everyone says the buy-in, that's when you don't have turnover. That's when people stay. They're committed to the common goal. So coachability and culture, top.
Is it a group firing?
No, Angie, that would be absolutely wrong.
That would be awesome. Well, here come the 11. I'm out.
For us, we're a little bit newer into interviewing agents to come on our team. To date, we haven't had anyone necessarily reach out that we've brought onto our team. I have reached out, or Amy has reached out to them. And I think it's extremely important when you're new as an agent for that other people may be watching you and your actions matter. And 2 of the people that we brought onto our team were people that showed up on their own as solo agents without doing a lot of business, and they kept showing up. And I was watching them. I wasn't talking to them. I wasn't engaging with them. I was watching. And when I saw that they could put in the time, the effort, when there wasn't any business, when they weren't trying to impress someone else, then that's a character. And that's something we can work with. We can work with character. We can work with hard work. And we can teach the real estate skill sets. So as we've approached business, we've been more intentional about us identifying our needs, where we feel like Nashville has certain demographics that aren't represented as well, and we're going to hire according to those needs. And so we're going to be more specific. We're probably going to be more intentional rather than being a receiving side of the team dynamic. But I would definitely encourage solo agents, even if you're wanting to be on a team, feel free to reach out to them. But it's very important that you are what you are when you show up to the office. There are people watching you.
That's really great advice. I'm going to go tell my kids that too. I didn't have this.
That's where mine comes from. That's what my dad told me. He said, the things you do when you're alone are the things that you do in public. They're the same person. You can't hide the person in public from the person in private and the person in public. And I definitely believe in that.
Was that when you were eating your boogers or? Just kidding. I'm just kidding. I have no knowledge of Pete eating boogers.
False.
But would you guys, if you were rolling it back and you were a new agent, would you be seeking a team knowing what you know now?
I think I would at least seek a mentor. If a team isn't the right fit for you, you need a mentor. I remember just feeling, I had been buying and selling real estate, not as an agent, just for my own business for years. And I still felt like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they just let me out here unsupervised with someone's most valuable asset. And I'm really thankful for the people that I've found that were willing to help and step in. That is also showing up to the office and being coachable. You should know what you don't know, and you should go seek it out, even if being on a team isn't the right fit for you.
Do you, Jennifer, Erin, do you guys have any, if you were...
Yeah, I think absolutely. Amy's spot on. You need a mentor. You can't do it on your own. You're not 100% you're not gonna succeed. You have to have somebody who's willing to invest a little time in you and tell you cold truths about what's going on in your work. So definitely seek a mentor. But I think you have to also know yourself. So why'd you get into real estate? What are your own goals? And does that fit with a team? So just be honest with yourself about what you're trying to do in your real estate business.
And I tell a lot of young new agents, take that first 6 months and just make sure that you understand that you're being an apprentice. You're here as a sponge to soak it all up. You know, it takes time. We always talk about farming our SOI. It takes time. You got to plant the seeds, water. Like you got to, there are steps. Nothing happens overnight. With social media, you're looking at these teams, you're looking at these agents, and you're like, wow, that looks so easy. You know, it's not. And, you know, markets change and markets shift, and a lot of people that have a lot of great results make it look easy because they're consistent in what they do. They time block. They are following the things that they always did. They're not looking and skipping and jumping onto new things and shiny objects. They're being consistent in what they do. And so also I say to other young agents is be available, okay? So what that means is answer your phone, okay? I've had so many opportunities come my way because I've answered my phone. I've also asked for the business by other agents. Can I do your open house? Be available. And then if you're going to be accessible, then you're going to be successful. So that's what people are seeking, and letting people know that you're in a place to do business, and they're going to be calling you.
Well, yeah, I mean, I feel like you guys are definitely running small businesses, right? And so if someone comes into a small business, we always say, you have to be willing to take out the trash. Why? Because that's what we all do when there's trash that needs to be taken out. When there's trash in the parking lot, Steve really loves to go pick it up, and that's what you do. And that's what I'm hearing from you guys is
Walk around with it so people know I did it.
and Steve has now told us that if we get a piece of trash, we're welcome to put it in his seat to let him know that we contributed, which I haven't done that in a while. But I think that that's, a lot of what I'm hearing is like, if you're fortunate enough to be on a team where you've got a lot of wisdom, be willing, that person's not bringing you in because they want to do everything top to bottom. They want you to do some of the things that they don't want to do so that they can do some higher value activities, and you too will work your way through.
Okay, so now a segment called Around the Wheel. We're going to ask a few questions to dive kind of more into the team structure and get your responses. So first, let's say I'm a real estate agent and I've just started a team. Yes. Is there a sweet spot in terms of the number of agents you might want on a team and the size of the territory that you try to cover, because you want to maximize the efficiency and the scalability and the profitability? Like, what's the sweet spot for that?
So I'll take this one. There is no magic number. I'm just going to say that. I think you need to ask yourself why, going back to why am I doing this and what is the ultimate goal? There are mega teams out there with there could be 50 people, 50 agents. There's also a high level of overhead in a situation like that. And then what is the value add? Are there trainers? Are there leads? There's so much more than just the buy sell portion of it, the larger that you go. So you really just need to figure out what you're doing. Now, when I started, I didn't know what the heck I was doing at all. There weren't a lot of teams at the time. And you kind of figure it out as you go and you see what works for you. And I made a lot of mistakes when I first started. I was like, you have a pulse, you're hired. Now I told you kind of what my system is now. It's different because I've evolved and I've grown and I've learned and I've made mistakes in the past. But I think it's so important to figure out what you want. Now, once you figure out what you want and what kind of team lead you want to be, I consider myself a rainmaker team lead. I bring in leads. That's what I do. There are different types of team leads out there. Some people don't want to be in production at all. I love it. I love the deal. I love to be out there. So I don't see myself pulling out and just being the CEO. I like to be the CEO and one of the agents out there. That's my bucket. But you have to figure out what is the best thing for you. And then when you figure that out, then you can figure out leverage and how much support that you need to have the life that you want, and you go from there.
I'd say you just have to also just know your business. How many transactions are you doing? How many transactions are you projected to do? Where is your business? So you have to do the deep dive, because just bringing somebody on doesn't automatically double it. And what is that person's skill set? What is their territory? What are their transactions? Because oftentimes 1 + 1 can equal 3, but if you don't have the right 1 and 1, maybe it's like -4. You just didn't make the right choice there. So just know, I always think, have a good analysis of your own business first and of the other person's business.
For us, because we are new and bringing on new members, it's about, for us, we feel like we're at the stasis. We've got the people that we have the energy and the bandwidth to invest in right now. And so I don't know where that's going to go. I know that right now we're good. Because it's really about the people that we have identified in relation to our clients and their clients. And I think, again, it just all comes back to how can you serve your client, your client base, your sphere of influence best. And for us, at this moment, it's 3 team members.
I like it. We've already touched on this a little bit, but when you go from being like the solopreneur as a solo agent, and then whether it's you're bringing in a partner or you're bringing in someone to be a member of your team, you've got other people now that you're responsible for, you're accountable to, and that takes your business to a different level. What are some things that, if people are considering this, that they should know that are going to be different, or some, I know, Erin, you've talked about some systems, but some things that you guys have had to do, systems, benefits, kind of level up as you've made that move?
I mean, you really have to know you're running a business. When you start to hire staff, you have payroll and you have employee manuals and there are rules. And then you have your agents who are 1099, and that's completely different too. They are not employees. And so you just have to know the legalities of that as well. When you're kind of working and growing a team, I think that's really important. I mean, like I said in the beginning, I didn't know what I was doing. You figure it out and you kind of, work it, and you learn and you grow as a person as well. So.
Well, and to that point, I mean, the bigger you get, you might have to bring in, like an attorney who deals in labor and employment law, right? Like, so talking about the overhead, the bigger you get.
Oh, I mean, there's always something, and you learn. I mean, we have, every agent signs what's considered an independent contractor's agreement with their firm. Well, you should, as a team lead, if you really are wanting to have a team and a scalable team, the worst thing that can ever happen is a disagreement in your terms, your splits, who gets what when. And I believe in being very black and white. So while I sign an independent contractor agreement with the firm that I affiliate with, that team member will sign an ICA with me. And that outlines expectations, but it also outlines the splits and things like that. There's never a gray area. There's not going to be a time that they're going to come back and go, well, what about this? No. It's all in there. And I feel that that's really important when you're growing a team, because when you start to get, people that are bent out of shape, because money is, people get really bent out of shape really quick when it comes to money and stuff like that. So if you have clear, everything executed and lined up, and it's very clear expectations, it's just like with a seller. You want to just make sure everything's super clear and communicated. And we're getting ready to hire on another agent, and it was, first things first. I send it. It's just like it is a business. It's like a corporation. The first thing that goes over is an NDA before you see the ICA, because there's talks about some, pretty, confidential things that are in there, and that's how you have to operate if you're going to kind of scale to a certain level.
In my perspective, there's two things. My perspective in business is it starts with me. So if I'm showing up, if I'm putting in certain items, if I'm learning a certain way, handling clients in a certain way, I set the expectation. That's leadership. Second to that, Erin, we do the same thing on our expectations. When they sign on to our team, we have very specific expectations of not only how you are to act as a professional, but required hours too, because I think something in real estate that can be confusing is people don't know which hours they work and when they work, and we have very clear expectations of weekends and evenings that they will be required to work, and they know what they're signing up with, so we get pushback on that. It was very clear from the beginning. I think second to that, as we're thinking about the business, there's also time in leadership that it's about building the business. And so we've built something that is building over 3 to 5 years. And so we have certain goals and metrics to hit during those 3 to 5 years. But it's important as leadership that we also have to take some cuts during that time. We're paying for some admin, we're paying for some additional services, and we know over time that will pay for itself. But certain times as leaders, we have to take that responsibility and that pay cut, if you will, to build something that's greater in the future.
I'd like to back it up for just a second, because we've talked a lot about the team hiring other people, but when we were just the two of us, we immediately saw this as a business, and we have an operating agreement. We're not an LLC, of course, but we have an operating agreement. We know how we're going to break up. We've already talked about how we're going to handle the database if we ever decide to stop working together. And I think that's really important, because I see people join together in real estate and it's kind of loosey-goosey. And I think that's where the conflict comes in the same way that when you're hiring on a team member, you want to be clear about the split. You need to be really clear about who's doing what. And I think we were really fortunate in the beginning that we're both overachievers. So we were both doubling each other's work for that first year. But while we were like, oh, is he doing more? Oh, no, I got to do something else. But it can go the other way. And so I think it's really important to make sure that not only the person you're identifying has a skill that you don't have that's going to add to your client services, but also that they have a personality that adds to yours, that whatever it is that you're weak in, they have a strength, but also that you share a work ethic. So if you both really, really, really want to spend 3 months out of the year in Mexico, you need to be aligned on that, right? And if both of you really don't have any need for time off, you need to be aligned on that too. So I think and we do every year, we reevaluate. We kind of, what's the state of the union? Are we still happy with this? Is this still working for us both? Is there anything we need to reevaluate? We have always seen it very much as a business from day one, even when there was nobody else involved. So I would just encourage people who aren't ready to add anybody else, but maybe just thinking about that, let's team up. Like, it's kind of a big deal.
Well, not only that, I want to add to the other side, and I love the fact that you both sat down and did the operating agreement. You know, I'm a solo owner, right? So it's the Erin Krueger team. But what is so important is that, you know, I have a team and I have employees and I have people that depend on me and I have buyers and I have sellers and I have this big business. So one thing that I'm super passionate about, not only, you know, with my business, but other team leads and as people are growing their teams, is to talk about succession planning. And that is just like estate planning with your children. This is my baby. The Erin Krueger team is my baby. So I want to make sure that the team members, if God forbid something happens to me, that this team is taken care of and there is a succession plan in place of who's going to be in charge and who's going to be hired and what insurance policy is going to go to what, because these ladies work so hard that their job, their career does not need to cease if something would happen to the team lead. And so I am very passionate about that. And so there is something that we go back and just like a will, I go back and I look at that every 6 months, change it, look at it. What do I need to change? It is so important because when you have a team and you grow it to a certain level, I mean, this is what people are counting on. These are their livelihoods, and so you have to have a plan. And that's what I'm talking about. And all of us have spoken about this. This is truly a business. You are not fly by night. You are a professional, and you need to run your business like a business.
I think all of those themes carry into our partnership as well, and even being just accountable to each other and the honesty and transparency that everyone's talked about here. It's important no matter what kind of team you form, to be honest with each other and all of your partners or teammates, but also be transparent.
Okay, I have a mailbag question from a person.
That's right. Okay, so this question is going to be about kind of like holes that people fall into, right? Like everybody falls in a hole. Everybody makes a misstep. So I've just passed my licensing exam to be a real estate agent. I have a business background and would like to form a team one day. If you were starting your teams all over again, what are some things that you would like to have done sooner or done better?
So I think one thing that we did well last year was, because we're a partnership, was coming up with our marketing and branding, right? Bringing 3 people together under one umbrella, and what does that look like? So I feel like we did a really great job with that, and that part is important. But I would say that what we could do better, and I didn't run this by Chris or Lila before talking about this, so this is the first time they're hearing this. Is we could have done a better full company rollout. So kind of being inspired by what Amy and Pete and Erin have set up here, which is making sure just SOPs were in place and sort of assignments of duties and tasks, and laying that out in a more clear and concise way, because the branding is really important, but maybe focusing more on the operating side from the start would have been great instead of playing catch up.
I think, you know, I always say to people that are considering having and growing a team is, you know, get your checklists together. I'm a big person on processes and checklists. And so think about this. When you start as a solo agent, you do everything yourself and you don't really have a checklist too much because you're so automated. You're so used to it. And there's a lot of agents that I work with that, you know, just have it all in their head. So what I tell them to do is while they're driving, because we all drive a lot, put that voice recorder on and just kind of walk through, what does it look like when I do a showing with a buyer? That is a checklist, and you kind of talk about the steps. Send that voice memo to maybe your assistant. Have them type it up, review it later, modify it. We are still modifying checklists. I feel like that's how you get to be better every day, is you say, you're only as good as your last deal. So look at, is there something that we could have done better? You know? and you look at it. It's the same thing. Like when you start to, one of the things that I would have done early on is if I had hired the right assistant at the time, right, and then to maybe hire a showing assistant. And at that model, that way leverage can be a little bit different. There are some people that just want to hire a whole bunch of agents, and it's too much too fast. It's disorganization. So what I always say is get back to basics. Let's talk about this. And everybody learns through osmosis, but it's so good to have that checklist there as well. So I always say have that voice recorder on and just kind of walk through, like, what does it look through transactions? What's most important? What does your listing checklist look like? What does the photography day look like? All of these different things. Have a checklist for everything. And then that way it's a very smooth process and you don't miss anything.
I don't have like any big thing like this is what we did wrong. I think the most important thing we did was continually criticize. Like we are very comfortable saying I messed this up or you could have done that better. And I think being able to have that kind of conversation with each other is the most important thing, and why I don't have any like, oh man, we like, Technicolor, we really messed this thing up, because we are constantly, tacking. And so I think that is probably the most important thing. If you're going to be in a team, like you gotta be able to be self-critical. Also make sure your teammate can be self-critical and can hear it.
I agree with that. I think that's one of the things that we did well is to not bring our egos to work. We can talk to each other. We can have very plain language with each other. And I think it's important to have that outside of clients as well. And so these first conversations or difficult conversations aren't in front of clients. If I were to criticize our startup, I think that we could have invested a little bit more time and energy into exactly what our next step was going to be. I think we knew that we wanted to be partners. We didn't have a specific plan of how to bring on other agents. We knew that we wanted to be partners. We wanted to feel that out to make sure that was the right fit first. But we didn't necessarily have a strategic plan on how many agents and what timeline at the beginning. And I think that could have probably evolved into a team faster than it did because of that.
That was, all of those were great pieces of advice.
What criticism do you have for Brandon?
I've been wondering this whole time why your chair's so big.
I think we ran out. All right, so I'm just going to bring that back a little bit to, Erin did, point out a little bit ago that, when she got into the industry, when we started too as a company, there were very few teams. Teams were basically just kind of like brokerages. They sort of thought of themselves as a team. And, there's probably different reasons why we've seen the evolution of teams in Nashville. I think part of that's the city's grown. The real estate market is more sophisticated. It's more segmented. And we've also, I think, seen that, hopefully it's progress of thinking better about being a business and not just an independent contractor, and seeing how that is evolving and people are learning how to do it and really do it really, really well. So this kind of brings us to a chance for each of y'all to kind of tell people where they can, where you can be found, and also maybe give a plug for sort of what you think your team does better than other teams or other agents and sort of your comparative advantages.
So for us, again, being a year into it, Living True Home Group empowers homeowners through compassion and fun and knowledge. And our group partnership is, the core tenet of our group partnership is based on mutual respect and acceptance. And if you can meet your partners where they are and know who they are and share that with each other, that's really the values that we bring to each other. And you can find us on Instagram at Living True Nashville. Thank you.
So for us, we're very easy to find, domusnashville.com. All of our contact information is there. Very easy to find. What I think that we do well, and this is what I say about our team, when you hire one of us, you get all of us. And so you get 5 unique skill sets, 5 unique eyes looking at every single buyer, seller, parcel development that we're doing. Also, we internally develop properties too, so we understand the risk, we understand financing, we understand construction from pre-construction, due diligence, to the finished product, and our team is going to know that product.
You can find me at erinkrueger.com, Google us, Instagram, the Erin Krueger Team. What do we do well? We have grown this team together. into different verticals. And I think that's I want to be your real estate advisor. So whether you're relocating, we have a relocation division. If you are an investor, we have an investor division. And we have specialization for all of those. We, work with builders and developers, and we have that division. And then we obviously have our resale and our regular buyers and sellers from our SOI and everything. And so we're really focused on having specializations in those within the team. But I think like it comes back to, we don't want you have to worry about anything. Our profession we're very lucky to do what we do. We are invited into people's homes and in charge of a lot of their largest assets. And, I always want people to know that when they sign on the dotted line of a listing agreement or a buyer's representation agreement with the Erin Krueger team, like, we are going to take care of you. We deal with deaths, divorces, highs and lows in real estate. And just like what Pete said, we have, an entire team that's going to take care of you. But when I'm there doing my listing pitch, you get me. Like, I am the one that is going to be your main contact. I am your negotiator, and if it's a hard conversation, the hand on the hand, and we're going to get through this. Don't worry about it. I got a team. The stagers are coming in. We got to get in the pods. We're going to get the stuff out. Don't worry about it. You're overwhelmed. I got this. I do this. You're going to be okay. And it's just like that sense of calm, and that's what we're going to give. It's that white glove service. We've got somebody for anything you can imagine, and we want to take that stress off your plate and get you to your next place.
Who should we do this with next?
And what topic?
No pressure, guys.
I think it would be great to see some of the land guys up here. I sell a lot of land as a female. I've got the heels on now, but I'm going to have the cowboy boots on later, and I'm going to be showing, 300 acres. So I deal with the guys in the land world. So I would say Tom Sullivan from Covey Rise, Dan McEwen from the McEwen Group. Those guys are so amazing. Do tons of deals with them. Their video content is out of this world. And so I think that would be a really great take, because they're not making any more land. And I think that would be a really good one. And then also from a boutique kind of brokerage, I think Charlie Peterson would be amazing to have on. So he would get my vote too.
I was going to say boutique brokerages. The small boutique, unique, the MW. I think interviewing why they are what they are. I think that's a critical part to Nashville real estate.
I have two. One topic would be, we're coming out of a crazy 2.5, 3 years. And so I would be interested in the agents who are kind of at that 5-6 year mark, who have made that pivot and change right now. I think that's an interesting time for agents in that time frame, right? They've been through just before it got crazy, then went through the crazy. Now what are they doing? And so my vote for that is Jacob Jones at MW Real Estate, because I think he's killing it. And then my second choice is Denise Moore. Denise is an amazing realtor, an amazing leader in all the organizations that she's involved with. And in, 6-7 years, she has my vote for GNR president too. So I would bring Denise in.
Thank you, guys. It's really great. I mean, as you guys can hear, these guys are, they're team leads, but they are leaders and they know what they're doing, and they do not take this profession for granted. They don't take their clients for granted, and they've got systems. And so I've learned so much today, and I'm so grateful truly for all of you being here. But that is a wrap for us today. If you guys have any questions, if you want to be on the show, any ideas for future episodes, hit us up at mailbag@wagonwheel.com. And thanks for being here for another episode of the Real Estate Mailbag. Okay, now, if you have not signed in back there for your CE credit, make sure you sign in so you can get it. We just got approved. So all these going forward will be like an hour, and it seems like a pretty fun hour, and it will be different. Parking, again, you remember, if you weren't here before, just take your ticket out to the desk and if you're in the garage, get it validated. And thank you guys all for coming. It's really nice that you take your time. We're really appreciative. So thank you.